Every single day, somewhere in the world, a construction worker clocks in for his shift and never comes home. These aren't just statistics. These are real men, fathers, brothers, and sons, swung alive by collapsing earth, crushed beneath steel, or vaporized in a single blinding second. What you're about to hear will change how you look at every building you've ever walked into. Construction is the most dangerous legal profession on the planet. For every skyscraper that kisses the clouds, for every bridge that connects two shores, someone paid a price most of us will never understand. In the United States alone, one construction worker dies every single day on the job. That's 365 funerals a year, and that's just one country. OSHA, the agency that tracks workplace deaths, identified what they call the fatal four: falls, being struck by objects, electrocution, and getting caught in or between machinery. These four killers account for nearly 60% of all construction deaths every single year. And each one is more terrifying than the last. April 23, 1987. It was just another ordinary afternoon at the L'Ambiance Plaza construction site in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Workers were busy lifting concrete floor slabs using a method called lift slab construction, raising pre-poured concrete slabs by hydraulic jacks up massive steel columns. Then, without any warning whatsoever, in less than 1 second, the entire structure pancaked. 28 workers were buried alive under 16 stories of collapsing concrete. The building folded like a deck of cards. Rescue workers clawed through the rubble for days. Some men were found in air pockets, fingers bloody from trying to dig their way out. In the end, all 28 were recovered, but none of them were alive. It remains the deadliest construction accident in American history. Wind back to May 16, 1968, in the East End of London. A woman named Ivy Hodge woke up early in her 18th floor apartment of the Ronan Point Tower block, a brand new modern building, and struck a match to light her gas stove. That single spark triggered a gas explosion that blew out the entire corner of the building. Floor after floor collapsed on top of each other like dominoes. Ronan Point killed 4 people and injured 17 more. But the real horror came afterward. Investigators discovered the building's prefabricated panels were connected by nothing more than pocket connections. Joints so weak that a strong wind might have eventually brought the whole thing down anyway. Buildings just like Ronan Point were scattered across Britain. Thousands of people had been living inside potential death traps for years. July 17, 1981. The Hyatt Regency Hotel in Kansas City, Missouri, was packed. Over 1,600 people had gathered for a dance competition in the grand atrium. Couples swirled and laughed on 2 suspended aerial walkways that crossed above the lobby. The atmosphere was electric. And then, with a sound like a cannon blast, the walkways gave way. Both walkways collapsed simultaneously, the upper one pancaking directly onto the lower, then both crashing into the lobby below. 114 people were killed. Over 200 were injured. It became the deadliest structural collapse in United States history at the time. And the cause? A single last-minute design change, a phone call between engineers, had doubled the load on one critical connection. One phone call, 114 funerals. Now for the worst. April 24, 2013. Dhaka, Bangladesh. The Rana Plaza, an 8-story commercial building packed with garment factories, had cracks visible in its walls the day before. Workers reported them. Managers were told. And the next morning, thousands of workers were ordered back inside anyway, because the clothing orders couldn't wait. At 8:57 a.m., the building collapsed in 90 seconds. 1,134 people died in the Rana Plaza collapse. Over 2,500 were pulled out injured, many missing limbs. It is the deadliest garment factory disaster in history, and the 4th deadliest accidental structural failure ever recorded on Earth. The building had been built illegally with substandard materials. Its upper floors had been added without permits, and it was shaking that morning before it fell. Now let's talk about a different kind of story. In 1967, during construction of the Selma Bridge in Alabama, a worker named James Preston fell 70 feet into the Alabama River below and survived. But the fall broke nearly every bone in his body. He spent 14 months in a hospital. When asked why he returned to construction after recovery, he simply said it was all he knew. Even the world's most iconic buildings have soaked blood into their foundations. The Empire State Building was constructed in just 410 days between 1930 and 1931, a feat so remarkable that it still stuns engineers today. Workers labored at terrifying heights without modern safety equipment. Official records list 5 deaths, but many historians believe the real number was far higher, covered up to keep the project's momentum going. The Golden Gate Bridge, the Hoover Dam, the Channel Tunnel, every engineering marvel humanity celebrates was built on the suffering of workers whose names we've largely forgotten. 11 men died building the Golden Gate Bridge. Over 100 died building the Hoover Dam, with some reports claiming workers were buried within the concrete itself. Progress has always had a price, and workers have always been the ones to pay it. Not all construction jobs carry equal risk. Roofing is statistically the single deadliest construction specialty. Roofers die at a rate nearly 3 times higher than the average construction worker. Iron workers who erect structural steel follow close behind. Excavation and trenching work kills dozens annually when trench walls collapse without warning, burying workers alive in seconds. After the Chernobyl nuclear disaster in 1986, the Soviet government deployed what they called liquidators, hundreds of thousands of workers tasked with building the massive concrete sarcophagus around the exploded reactor. Some workers were given lead vests. Most were given almost nothing. They worked in shifts of mere minutes, because more than that would deliver a fatal radiation dose. Thousands of these construction workers are believed to have died of radiation-related illness in the years that followed. The next time you walk into a towering office building, cross a bridge, or drive through a tunnel, take 1 second. Just one. Think about the man who carried the steel beam that holds that ceiling. Think about the worker who was standing right where you're standing and didn't go home. Construction workers are the invisible backbone of civilization, and far too many of them paid with everything they had. Don't forget them.